Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle, and we're back in on the Mental Muscle podcast. Now, I have a great guest today, Laura De Laguna. Now, I found her, I was watching the Fresh and Fit podcast, and you were on there, you were going, I think a few different guests were combating you on some views. You were talking about law, you were talking about father's rights, even some brain stuff. And that's what piqued me, because my job is to work with human performance from the behavioral and the mental side. So I was like, you know what, let me hit you up and see if you'd be interested in coming on. And luckily, you were back in town again, and we were able to catch up. So give a little background about yourself, what you do, or what you're trying to do, and we can just get the conversation going.
Okay, well, my name is Lauren, and I'm from California. Background on me, I went to UC Davis, I got a math degree, and then worked as like a math tutor, physics teacher for a little bit, and then I got a law degree, and I just passed the bar here in the sunny state of Florida.
Congratulations.
I'm waiting on character and fitness, which is something that is required to be a licensed attorney. It should be coming a little, I have a slight delay, but it should be coming. And other than that, I'm just making content. I'm doing interviews like you do, not with such a great professional setup like you do yet, but I'm working there. And in the meantime, I'm also just doing shows like Whatever Podcast, Nick Ricada, this show, Fresh and Fit, Destiny, Hunter Avalon, whatever. Yeah.
You got to in this industry, you have to be seen. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on doing. I'm working on just talking to as many people as possible and making great connections. Nice. And yeah.
Nice. So one of the things, like I said, you've talked about numerous things I saw you on these different podcasts, but one of the biggest ones that stood out to me is something I don't think get talked about a lot is men's rights when it comes to the child support system or the family court system. And you have a project that you're working on, and you have to get into the too specifics, but what is the goal of this, trying to build on how men can go about custody and things of that nature?
Well, the goal of this project is to point out the issues within our current legal structuring in terms of men's rights, specifically with parental rights. There is, first of all, there's like a lack of federal oversight in this situation because family court is really state by state. That being said, the issue that I'm finding is after divorce or after breakup, when there is a child involved, when one parent moves to another state, especially a mom, especially if they're moving to a state for the specific purpose of having sanctuary for their kid in some way. So for instance, California is a sanctuary state for transgender people. So I am concerned, especially because men tend to be, this is very generalistic, but men tend to be more conservative, women tend to be more liberal. So I am concerned. We are seeing a trend of women taking advantage of these statutes to take children and trans them. It's not always trans. It's various issues, but influence them negatively in some sort of a way that the father thinks is negative for the kids. However, states frequently side with the mothers on these issues. They consider it lack of affirmation, a type of child neglect or child abuse. So fathers could actually lose their rights if they end up fighting for their child to not undergo these invasive procedures.
From the default point of it, when they break up or divorce, whatever it may be, it's automatically the mom's the fit parent, and the father, in order to even be involved, he has to do what? Go through some type of legal proceeding, or what's that?
Well, okay, so every state statute is different. I don't think there's any state that specifically says the mothers automatically favor the mother. However, there are certain states that the statute when you go into it, the judge is supposed to look at the parents equally and then look at a list of other factors and which might sway it. So like, okay, both the parents have equal custody now, and it's like, oh, okay, but the mother's struggling with a drug addiction. So maybe we should weigh actually it differently. But you start with the presumption of 50-50. Yeah. Whereas other states are literally just best interest of the child without that presumption of 50-50 to begin with. And so when you have it so loose like that, you're seeing in general women becoming more favored in that initial process, and women do tend to have more custody. If you look at federal maps of the United States, there's not a single state in which fathers are presumed custody over the mother, but there's many states in which women are more likely to have larger custody than the father. People argue, however, that this is because fathers are not fighting in court for it. It's because the fathers don't want the custody. So that's what people are arguing. But the stats that I looked at were for people who were in the custody battle. So you would imagine that they're fighting.
Yeah, I see that narrative a lot, that the guys just don't try, don't fight. And there was an argument that could be made, and I've seen it brought up a lot, is that the financial cost of it. Like, what do you know of the numbers on that? Because I've heard numbers like at minimum you might spend $15,000, $20,000 just to maybe get a balanced result.
So yeah, there's a lot of issues in it. Once again, this varies state by state, but usually the father has to pay for the attorney's fees. So now people argue, well, if the father's paying for the best attorney and the mom doesn't have any money, right, then he's going to do better in the custody proceeding, more likely, because he could get the best attorney and she can't afford it. However, frequently, the men also have to pay for the women's attorney if they entered into a union and she doesn't have a job and he always had a job and provided, and when they're splitting up, a lot of states wouldn't consider it fair for her to then fend for herself with no financial backing in this very serious life dispute. So the men would have to pay for her. And so this would incentivize the woman then to just drag this out as long as possible and get as much out of it. So there's all of these you're trying to help protect the woman from one issue, but this incentivizes her frequently to take advantage of the system.
And that's human nature. Like, it's not even just with child support or the family court system. Like, if you get an opportunity to get more, make more, do more, you're probably going to take it. So I get why it happens. So that's why I like to see both sides. But if you get into like even how we get there from the men's side of things, let's go into like just mental health. It's a very defeating thing. Like, if you let's assume that, let's put a number on it, 70% of men actually want to be there for their child. Let's just assume. I know that might not be the truth, might be higher, might be lower, but let's assume 70%. So that means a decent amount of men actually want to be involved, whether it's daycare, go and pick them up, like you talk with someone you worked with, or even like having 50-50, whatever that looks like. I would assume that 60-70% of men want to do that, but it could be defeating when you're like, the first step is to go to court. And I know that could be an excuse to not do it because it's like, man, I got to do all this. And I can understand that, but it's like, do you think that a lot of guys get defeated for the simple fact that they have to go through a process just to even begin to be their father?
I mean, absolutely. I know a lot of men avoid the court system in general and try to have during the split, try to have just a mutual agreement with the mother. But then you run into situations of, threatening and coercion, and then threatening the courts, I will go to court type thing. So it's just divorce is very daunting. Divorce is 80% of the time initiated by the female partner in heterosexual relationships. So there's just a lot of legal advantages for women right now in the divorce process and then also in the custody process. And with so many legal advantages, you have to imagine that's incentivized, and therefore it's just going to create more of it, which is why you see such an increase in divorce in our society today. And a decrease in marriage.
That definitely could be a deterrent. Are you familiar with a lawyer? I think he's a retired lawyer now. His name, the lead attorney. Have you heard of him?
I think I Yeah.
So he gained a lot of prominence around 2021 because he did a lot of collabs from the late Kevin Samuels, and he gave a pretty interesting perspective because he was a 20-year attorney for family court, divorce court. So he gave a perspective. He didn't favor necessarily men or women, but it tended to be more men that called into his show, and he would give like literal insight from his legal expertise. And I actually like watching because I learned something from it, understanding it. But it's like a lot of times he would give advice that didn't sound like outward hearing it the best, but he said sometimes. So one of the things I heard him say, it was more so of maybe you gotta just, I don't use the word give up, but this guy had such an extreme example where his case was so messed, or his situation so messed up. He was like, your best bet is like, just do what you gotta do, let those years go by, and when you're ready, 18 years old, then come back and do it. Because he was getting robbed by the system, where he was like dang near crying on the live, like he wanted it, but he was like, you want to hear my opinion? He gave him that opinion, and he didn't want to hear that. And I can assume most fathers don't want to hear, hey, my daughter is 8, 9 years old, but way this is going back and forth with the money, I'm bleeding dry. Just give up your parental rights so you don't have to go through that and then explain to it 10 years later. But who wants to hear that?
No, imagine the mental trauma that you're putting a child through to take away the father. And then also she must feel, am I not worth it? Or the child must feel, am I not worth it for the dad? But at the same token, what's the dad supposed to do? Just keep paying his attorney and the mom's attorney and then go completely broke and then still not have custody? And it's just wild. And then also once you go to court, everything is documented. So if you say an opinion during a deposition or during a hearing or a trial, God forbid, and you're not aware that that's one of the new factors in terms of parental rights, you could be totally screwed. For instance, like going back to that trans thing, just because it's a hot topic thing, not affirming your kid. So if one of the major disputes with your wife is, my son is a little bit effeminate and he wants to wear dresses and makeup, or play with makeup or whatever. However, I don't want him to go on puberty blockers and I don't want him to go on estrogen, and I want to continue to call him a him. You could lose parental rights in a lot of states if you say that. And I think a lot of fathers would be completely unaware of that until it's too late, until they've already said something and it's admissible in court. And that's terrifying. And then there's a lot of other issues that people are just unaware of when it comes to parental. I spoke to a father the other day who they had legal rights in one state. All the hearings were in one state. He thought that state had only jurisdiction. He moved out of the country. His ex then just took the child to a different state and started using those state laws. And he now that state lost jurisdiction over him because he hasn't been in the country for 6 months. But I don't think he was aware that if he left the country for 6 months, he would lose the rights to his daughter if he had no. So there's just so many things like that where people are just unaware of. That's why I think there should be something more federal to so that men can know how to keep their rights. And then one other major issue for men when it comes to this whole legal system is, I'm not sure if you're aware, but what classifies as a father is a very interesting thing in the legal realm. So you can be considered the father of a child even if you're not actually the biological father of the child.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, even if you didn't know. So like if your wife cheated on you early in your relationship and you didn't know this and you held yourself out as the father for X number of years, then you can become the father legally and so there's just so many issues in that realm. Do you think that hospitals should be required to do it? Yeah, like
that's a hot button issue. I've seen it, and I think, because now if you get into an ethical side of it, people might say, well, it's putting the DNA in system to this group, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's the side. But then from the, I don't know the numbers, but I've heard a stat, I think it was around 20 to 30% of all baby or children walking around may or may not be the child of who they think their dad is.
Oh, wow.
I've heard that. I don't know if it's 20. It was somewhere in that realm. And that's a lot. That's a third
is a lot.
of people. If that is, I think it's between 20 and 30.
I don't think my dad got a paternity test. Dad, I hope you're my dad. I love you either way.
These things, it seems crazy to say, and people love to get into, modern women or modern times. But honestly, this is not new. Remember the old school thing, the milkman? That was a thing back in the 40s and 50s, like, is the dad the milkman?
Yeah.
But we joke about it, but this is a possibility because this narrative of men are the only ones who are practice infidelity, like it happens, I think statistically about 50-50. It's just, I think it's more talked about men. Because we look at the extremes, like
the tall Kardashian, that's OJ's kid, obviously.
I know what you're talking about. I've heard that before, yeah. Hey, paternity, right? I guess it's, who cares now? I guess they're both in their 30s, 40s now. So, hey, and OJ's, and is he in jail?
Who cares? No, he's not in jail anymore. What do you mean, who cares?
Well, not who cares. Not who cares. I take that back.
If you found out tomorrow that the guy that you thought was your father your entire life, because you told me about your dad a little bit before the show and the cop, and it's pretty cool.
And he's a big factor of who I am today.
Actually, your dad is some guy who dyes his hair blue and preaches liberal shit. And so would that change your worldview? Like,
yeah, you're right. Well, when I said who cares, I didn't mean it as screw it. I just meant it more so as you had a point where you probably could. It'd still be devastating, I'm sure, but you could probably tolerate a little bit efficiently. It'd still be hurtful, like to know 30, 40 years of thinking one way. Because like you said, with my dad, I formed a lot of worldviews, a lot of like how I am today, having my own business. I've been fortunate to do a lot of things in my career. And his, like, what he instilled in me played a big factor. And it's not saying it makes me say, you know what, I'm gonna become a bum now. Let me go on the streets and just get a brown bag and a beer and just hang out on the corner now that I lived a lie. But at the same time, it'll be like, dang, what was this all about? So I get that, yeah. And I can say I'm a father, so it's like, it would be devastating.
How would you feel in the reverse? How would you feel if you found out today that your kid was not biologically related to you? And what would you do? Would you continue to raise your child as...
Wow, the question that's turned around. Honestly, it would hurt a lot.
Yeah.
It would really hurt because it's not even just the fact that financially or things have been demanding me that may have changed my life that way, but it's the fact that I would be more mad that she would be hurt. Like, I would be hurt as myself, but I'll be hurt that she now has to change how she has to feel towards a man, me, who has been around she's 9 years old, 9 years. So now I have to flip it back to you, because legally, would I still have any authority in that case?
Probably.
So I could just like...
Actually, I should know. So the bar exam in Florida doesn't go over... Well, it does have family law in it. Does it have... I'm trying to remember how deep it goes into family law. I don't think it has on it the definition of fatherhood on the bar. So like I don't recall having to study this. Maybe I didn't do a very good job studying, but I passed, so that's all that matters. But I'm not sure if Florida, I'd be really interested to look up the definition of fatherhood in the state of Florida. But let's say the definition of fatherhood is somebody who's put out as the father from the time of birth for at least 2+ years. That's the definition. Then you would legally be the father.
That's why I asked that, because I know legal is different from just saying you're the father. Legally, it's different.
So like, let's say real father, you find out you're not the real father comes back into the picture. He wouldn't even legally be considered anything. He would just be some guy to her, even if he's actually the father.
Yeah, so honestly, like, let's take it off of me for a little bit, because I like keep it objective as possible.
Too deep.
It's deep, but there's other reasons I'll tell you off camera. But basically, I think anyone outside of me, any man would feel hurt and devastated. I don't think any guy is that heartless, unless he from jump didn't want to be a part. If he was that, then I guess he'd be relieved. But if most guys who do care, they're going to be hurt. And it's like, I think the other side of that question would be is, what does a child want? Like, if they're 9, it's a little harder, but let's say they're 14. They have a little more sense that maybe I want to know this guy, you know? So what if they want this? So that's a whole nother kind of worms of like, they want to get to know this guy.
Yeah.
So now it just depends on, I guess, the age. If they're younger, I think that transition is a little, not easier, but it just gives you a more ability to like get through to the child since they're not like able to make as much sense of it. But if they're like 12, 13, even like 17, they're almost a legal adult. They can literally say, you know what, I do want, because in a year they'll be able to do what they want. So I think all in all, that situation, that's going back, how we even got to this, the paternity test at birth, that's how we got here, right? So that neutralizes all of that.
Yes.
From just the legal paternity side, it neutralizes everything we just went over, and no guy ever has to wake up thinking, is this my child?
Yeah.
But on the ethical side, then you got to question, I have to give
Should
DNA.
the state be allowed to? Or if they do, I suppose they could do something where they destroy your DNA on the spot afterwards.
Can we trust that? And that's getting into whole conspiracy stuff. But
I agree with that.
like, what's it called? 23andMe Ancestry? You give away your rights to your biology, basically.
The police are using that.
Oh, yeah, they found the Golden State Killer.
I know.
Through one of those services.
Wild.
So it's like, going back to ethics, that's a good thing. They found a murderer and rapist.
It's a workaround to the Fourth Amendment, though. I think the Supreme Court is going to be reviewing that soon, and I'm not sure. I've actually discussed this with other people that could, and they're like, that's obviously a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And I'm not saying I disagree with them, but they were like, that's not true. There's no way they're actually catching criminals that way. And I'm like, they are. They're doing it. They're like, well, that's not constitutional. And I'm like,
a lot of things
even if it's not constitutional, it's happening.
Let's be real. I love America. It's a great place to be, but there's always the loophole. Yeah, salute 4th of July just passed. But it's like there's always loopholes, and let's be real. Like, I used to be a history teacher, actually. I think you said you're a math teacher, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, I was a history teacher back in the day. So I love history, and I know that this country has a lot of great things put in place for our citizens throughout the world that most countries don't have, most developed countries don't even have. So I'm proud of that and happy for that. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because for those same freedoms, you got to trade off a little bit of something. So going back to the whole DNA submission thing, I guess it neutralizes that problem of we have 30% of men walking around with the wrong child. Yes, but it opens up a bigger picture, and who knows?
Should it be like,
Oh my.
no, you're good. Maybe it should be a choice thing that only the father who's at the hospital gets to choose, and he gets to do it without mom's knowledge. Because I think a big issue too is
Hurts their feelings.
like if it were an option, and I think it is an option as soon as the baby's born. Hey, can I get a paternity test? To ask that in front of a woman who literally just squeezed your 10-pound, semen demon out of her cooch,
No,
yeah, that would piss her off. That would piss her off.
Especially if you're in a long-term committed relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, you're accusing them of cheating.
Yes.
There's no way around that. You're accusing them of cheating.
So that being
So
said,
that's a whole nother side of it, the emotional side. We talk about the biological, the ethical, and that's emotional.
that being said, I think he should get to know too. So, and it's almost his private medical history. Yeah, I feel like he should get some privacy and get to know without the moms. They should have a separate room and then delete the DNA. Or I don't know. They should do something. That comes back
to the whole this is. I don't want to go on this tangent, but I'll bring it up. The whole my body, my choice type of thing, because even though it's technically the baby now, DNA and your DNA, the man, it still comes back to them. We want the responsibility of what comes from this, and that's a whole topic in itself, because there's been arguments of when do we decide paternity? Do we do it from the date, the conception, and start child support? I've heard people talk about that, right? Wasn't that a thing a few years ago?
Well, another thing with paternity too is if you sign the birth certificate in some states, that's enough. If you sign the birth certificate, now you're the father, even if you're not biologically the father. And it's okay, well, you're put on the spot there at the hospital to sign the I think that you should be allowed to know if the baby is yours before you sign the paper, and without having the emotional acrimony of asking the mom, hey, I don't know if you cheated on me, so can I please take this baby and do a little swab? So
going from your legal side, should it be something you have to have the burden of proof, not accuse, but suggest that? Okay, we had a breakup in 2019, so should that be considered, or should it be strictly, I just want it, do it? I think if the mom is asking you to sign the birth certificate, or if you're about to sign the birth certificate, you should have a legal opportunity to have a DNA
swab prior to signing the birth certificate.
No, I agree. I'm not against it at all. I just know that like I said, I'm not a centrist. I'm just big on looking at both sides. I know on the other side of that will open up a lot of can of worms. But hey, sometimes those cans got to be open.
Yeah.
The bigger picture, right?
There's so many
This child needs to know.
Women are legally incentivized to lie about who the father. So, like, let's say I'm with several men. I'm not. Hypothetically, of course, I'm an angel.
Let's just say woman X. This is
woman X.
It's not you.
Not me. Let's say woman X is with several men, and they're in varying degrees of wealth. The wealthier man is like not very charismatic, not very attractive. The, hot, broke bar bouncer is like, super Chad, super charismatic, super hot. So she gets knocked up by the Chad. Who does she want to be the father of the child?
The resources, obviously.
The one with the resources.
It happens not all the time, but it happens.
So, and then also let's imagine your state, all you have to do is have them sign the birth certificate. So I'm just going to pretend for 9 months, or as soon as I find out I'm pregnant, that he's the dad, and then lean into him to sign the birth certificate on the day. So if you're going to have so many incentives for the woman to lie, you should also have disincentives for the woman to lie. So if you knew that he's going to get the paternity test before he signs that document, you're going to be disincentivized. There's very few disincentives for women to take advantage of the system. Right now, the system has been so concerned with protecting women because women have been screwed over in the past with issues where they weren't even allowed to get out of marriages, even when they were abusive, and child marriage is still basically legal in the United States. Yeah, if with parents' permission. So super religious families, cults, it's actually really bad. In the past, they had the short end of the stick when it came to things legally in the past with divorce. But then as women gained the right to vote, and so politicians, and just Pearly Things has talked about this, which is why she doesn't think women should have the right to vote. But
do you think that's extreme?
I just think the way that I see it is a genie out of the bottle. Like, maybe women should have never had the right to vote in the first place. Maybe that's true. Especially with her arguments. However, I don't think...
What's the reasoning why she says... Because I've heard her say it, but I never really got into the depth of it.
So she has two reasons as to why she doesn't think women should be able to vote. So the first one is the draft. If women are going to be voting, then they're going to make decisions influencing our world's policy, and therefore we're going to be going to wars over what women decide, and yet only men have to die for these decisions.
I think people don't give that a lot of thought because we live in a more civilized time, but it's always a chance because I'm 34, so this is my last year. Because when I signed up to vote in 2006 when I was 18, I knew this. So because you see it says selective service, you have to check that. And most women don't think about that, and since it's so civilized, but let's be real, there's always a chance. Look what happened in Ukraine, Russia. So it's like, let's say boots had to hit the ground for America, I'm still eligible. So I'm older. I probably won't have to be.
Like, you're a tall, fit dude, and you're older.
Then I gotta die.
You're fucking front lines, buddy.
But let's be real though. The Ukrainian, they had a rule, right? If you're 18 to 50, you had to stay, right? It was something like that.
Yeah.
So that's not unrealistic. So when she says that, I guess I get it now because I would have to go over there. And I'm not ashamed to say fight because my dad's a former Marine, police, so that's in my blood. Matter of fact, I'm probably the only one in my family who didn't join because I went to college and did the whole university, get a PhD, all that stuff. But basically it's like that not voting, I get that now. So that's the point.
Her first point. Her second point is that now that women have the right to vote, we influence politicians and legislation and yada yada, and this can be seen as all of the benefits with women in the divorce process and alimony and all of this, which was extremely problematic in the past. However, the thing with Just Pearly Things is she's like, okay, so repeal the 19th. But the problem is it's kind of genie out of the bottle, and also society has changed so drastically from the times. And so now we have women in the workforce, and even though Pearly thinks that they provide no value to the workforce.
Well, which workforce are we talking about? Because there is value depending on the demographic, right? Because obviously some fields are more beneficial for a man to be in, right, versus say others? Like if I say I want someone to be a construction worker, not saying a woman can't be a construction worker, but you probably want the person who's stronger.
So that's her point. So she's saying like all of the men's jobs, plumbing, construction, electric work, politicians for the most part, like all of the positions that are typically held by men are necessary for society to run, whereas positions that are frequently held by women, according to her, such as like she would say nursing, teaching, fashion designing, shit like this, women should have been at home anyway doing homeschooling, should be cooking, should be making the clothes at home, and if that were the case, then we would have a better society because the children would be getting like the best possible education and clothes and everything. That's her point. However, how do you backtrack that? We had a society in which women wanted these things in life, and now we have a society in which women were. It's just genie out of a bottle effect. Women kind of have to get a job because they're scared to rely on a man when the man is not incentivized to get married anymore. So you don't know the likelihood of getting married to a man that is going to provide for you. Not to mention that you kind of need a 2-income household these days just to survive, especially if you're middle class or lower. And so it's challenging to then say, well, women should then lose the right to vote when they are actually a heavy part of society, whether or not you like it. So
yeah, and I agree with that because, like you said, things have changed. If you go back to 1950s, the average employee made about $45,000 of today's, I don't know what that would have been inflation-wise, but $45,000 a year, and the CEOs made like $200,000. It's a big gap, but not dramatic. But you fast forward to 2023, the average worker still makes about $45,000, but now CEO makes $2 million. So it's like, going back to your point, you can't live like that anymore because $45,000 of today's money doesn't go as far as back then. And it's like you said, they can't rely on a man and say, hey, I'm going to take care of you when things are more expensive. And let's add in that you probably want more, not necessarily lavish lifestyle, but you want to do things. You don't want to just pay bills and sit at home and look in the mirror. You want to go out, you want to might travel. So adding that into it, it wouldn't even financially, statistically, like the math doesn't add up, right? You couldn't do just a one income.
There is reason for that. As we are seeing there's less innovation, so there's a lot of mergers, and there's these people who are CEOs tend to be very specialized, very skilled people. So you want to pay them these extreme amounts in order to have your conglomeration still going. And then as for the workers maintaining the same value, well, yeah, you have more. At one time, you had only 50% of the population really even actively involved in the workforce. Now you have 100% of the population. So you have an influx of workers. So supply and demand, you have huge supply and not as much demand, and you have, so yeah, that's a major problem as well. I don't know if we could fix these issues by just taking away the rights from women to vote. If I would be more willing to have a discussion about giving the rights of women to vote at the time than I would be, and saying maybe we shouldn't, maybe there are reasons why women shouldn't vote. Then I would say today, taking them away, I don't think that will resolve the societal issues that we currently have.
I think it's a talking point, and she explained her logic, and I'm big on, if you can explain your logic, so be it. But I don't think taking back the right, and let's take away women next, let's bring you in as a person who has a law degree, who got educated. I would think someone like you would be able to make informed decisions and have a contribution that's valuable, even if you don't have to necessarily go fight in a war. You know what I mean? Because even if we go back to ancient times, like hunter-gatherer day, or let's go a little further, let's maybe like the medieval times, it was still the same thing. Men went out and died in the wars. It's always been, throughout history, probably has been tens of billions of men have died in the war. Have women died in the war? Sure, but it's like that risk was always there. So it's not like now in 2023 it's changed. Like, so giving them the right, I think, is not a big deal, honestly, to me, because I think I wouldn't say everyone, because you use the term average, that's about half the population. I feel the average person isn't informed enough. Now, there's another half of that aren't that informed that still vote too, and that's men and women, right? So that's not even there's 50% of the population who don't know crap, but they'll go on November whatever and put in their vote. And
that's true.
So it's like, I don't like to, like I said off camera, like, I like to look at both sides, Well, let's segue with that, though. So getting to the point, we talked about the father issues in the court system, women's right in voting. So let's jump over to a whole, and I've talked about this maybe twice on my channel in an interview. I did it once with a guy his name's Dr. Ty Tashiro. He's a brilliant man. He wrote a book called The Science of Happily Ever After. Okay. And I sent him a few videos of like Fresh and Fit, Kevin Samuel, and he stayed centrist, but he gave me some good points. And going to another psychologist, actually dropped the episode recently. She talks about it. She's more like dating advice, but she's psychologists. So going into all that, they both actually agree with a decent amount of the red pill talking points. And these are people who have PhDs who know this field. Like psychology is a very broad field. My specialty is more like performance, but they're more like relationships, romantic, and they agree with a lot of that. So going to my point to get to it is, what's your take on that? Has red pill gone too far? Is it getting extreme? Because I guess it was supposed to be like, okay, men have these issues, women have these issues. Let's try to find the middle ground. Now it's more like, some people say it's hate women.
So I do think they have gone a little too far, but that being said, I think they go too far because extremism gets clicks, first of all. But also, they say things that are controversial that are often frequently they're very true. Everybody knows they're true, but nobody wants to say it. And it's controversial. So like Nick Fuentes, for instance, him coming on and then him talking about black crime rates. It's like, okay, that sounds racist. You sound like a racist. You sound impersonally inflammatory. However, is it true? Are there specific crime rates? So they say things that are true and might sound hurtful a lot of the times. And it's not 100% true either. That's one thing that I don't like about them. They want to paint all women with
Black or white.
Yeah, with a broad brush, or they want to paint all Jews with a broad brush, or paint all whatever. And so that's annoying. But to call it wrong when it's hyperbolic maybe, but it's not incorrect. And so that's why when you're saying all these PhDs are saying it's true, it's like, yeah, they may have done the whole academia route of doing study after study and pouring millions of dollars into studies to find out basic truths that everybody already knew. And I feel like these guys are just speaking the truth nobody wants to say because it sounds bad. And with that model, they actually found a bunch of people who felt really suppressed in their ideology. Like, we're not allowed to have these views because these views are too controversial to say. And now they see these guys openly saying them, and then they're emboldened. But then they're emboldened because now they have a whole group of people like them, and then that encouragement could go too far and it can bubble over into extremism. But I don't think extremism should be censored. I think the censoring is what causes the extremism in the first place, because these guys were censored, which is why they had to all conglomerate, which is why it's just cyclical.
Well, the interesting about it is that some people find issue with some of the talking points. That's not even labeled a red pill, but some of the talking points of like men and women and dating, interpersonal dynamics. But it's like, someone's watching this. So that means there's a decent amount of people who do believe it. And to argue that, oh, no one thinks like, because that's always the default is, oh, this is simps, or these are incel, like whatever, insert shaming language. And it's like, well, apparently a majority of these people, and some of these men, if you talk to them, they're people working like everyday jobs. Some people work in corporation. It's all types of men. They think there's just one category of men who watches these things. These guys who live in their mom's basement with a neck beard and a big belly and what they say, eating Cheetos. Like, that might be 5-10% of it, but there's a lot of guys who are everyday hardworking men who are either married, not married, but they'll be like, I agree. Like, they're right. These dynamics do happen, and why can't I guess when they use Oprah, Ricky Lake, all of those back in the day, right, in the 90s, those are all about ain't no good men and I don't need no man. And that was a narrative since like the late 70s. So 50 years almost. That's been a narrative. And I guess now men are finally like, we're going to say something. I guess we didn't have to say anything 60 years ago because we were getting killed in wars. We were buying houses. We're doing all the quote unquote macho manly things that women didn't have to. And I can talk for the men's side too, that there is a lot of decrease in what we call masculinity or what we see as masculinity. So I won't deny that. I know there's guys who are, in my age, I'm 34, that still live like they're like 21.
Drake is painting his nails.
I saw that.
Yeah, like
see what I'm saying? So, and he's one of the most known men on the planet. So it's like any guy born after 2007, these young teenagers now who are 14, 15, they see him as a man. He's a man. And it's not even that he's a rapper, because there was rappers like, say, like DMX or someone who, you let them, you're like, he'll knock you out if you talk to him sideways. You don't see that when you talk about Drake. I don't know Drake, and I don't know if he can fight, but it's like, I wouldn't assume he can. I could be wrong.
His nails are wet. He can't fight.
I like to say, hey, being a man, I've been in fights, so you never know. But I'm not.
Have you been in a fight with a man with little pink hearts painted on his nails? Yeah, no, nah.
I'm just saying though, like, I'm not gonna say he can't, but I wouldn't assume he can. That's what I'm saying. I won't walk up to him and say, man, he can't fight.
He's soft.
I'm just gonna be like, yeah, he looks soft. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. But I still gotta have my guard up because I've been punched in the face.
As soon as he's like, Kiki, do you love me? I'm like,
I feel like you're not a big Drake fan, huh?
I used to be.
Or recently?
I used to be. No, I fell off at the Kiki song. I did.
He makes music for the people to listen. He's a radio friendly guy. Like, he's not making music for hardcore listeners.
I liked his old album.
Well, that's when he was talking like more general, open. Now it's more like geared towards that I need to get on the radio, which is fine because he's probably making hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm power to him. But yeah, going back to the point, like, there is a lack of masculinity, so I won't deny women that. There is guys who literally, their idea of a date is just simply where you at, what you're doing, come through. And I'm not saying you got to go to a $400 a plate, high quality restaurant, but there's a middle ground, right? You have to put a little bit of effort so it shows the girl, okay, I want her, versus like, and we can blame social media, we can blame dating apps, we could, but at the end of the day, the person still has the illusion of choice, and that's going to be there regardless, because we live in a much more connected world. Matter of fact, I met you online. Almost all my guests I met online. Maybe 2 I met in person. So it's like, that's how the world works. So it's not a bad thing. Once again, it comes with good and bad, but it's like the bad side is this illusion of choice, because it's like, oh, I got 10 guys hitting me up. So you might be cool. You might be a great guy. But what are those other 9 like? Let's see.
Yes.
And it goes both ways.
Well, that's something that the Red Pill guys, have you read any of their content? Like Myron Gaines's book, Why Women Deserve Less?
I actually have it. It's somewhere around here.
I'm reading it right now.
I haven't read it yet. I have a lot of books to get to, and it's on my list though.
Yeah.
I don't have any of the other ones. I know Rollo Tomasi has some, and there's a few others.
I have Rollo's book downloaded.
You know Michael Sartain?
I know the name. I don't have his book,
he
though.
did my podcast a few weeks or months ago. I don't think he wrote a book, but he cites a lot of stuff. He's big on psychology. That's how we connected. He loves quoting like psychology. That's why I brought those psych people other, not to say academics got it right, just to be like, even they're seeing it, like, because people be like, oh, that's just your opinion, right? That's the favorite thing people say, but it's like, nah. Our who we are, our psyche, our mind, our biology falls in line more so than not with this stuff. Because people always say, oh, it's 2023, but I use a term called there's no more saber-toothed tigers, meaning that ancient world that we grew up in for thousands of years, we're still wired for it. It's just that we have new modern mismatches. Like, think about anxiety, right? Anxiety's always been a thing, but it used to be running from a saber-toothed tiger, running from a tribe that's trying to kill you. Now it's, did she text me back? Oh, I need to finish this report for this deadline. That's a new threat.
I think you would find, at least from what I'm reading so far, Why Women Deserve Less. I think you'd find it interesting because it does talk about this dichotomy between the old world and the new world in terms of technology and the illusion of choice. As you just mentioned, like, oh, wow, you're a great guy. You hit most of my boxes, but I have 9 other in my DMs. Let's see if anyone hits all of my boxes. And so you're never really settling for this one person. But with Why Women Deserve Less, for them, that choice only exists for women. Like, men don't also have a DM from 10 women.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, I think they're wrong. I think it's just that a lot of women have a lot of DMs from thirsty men because men are more likely, but men are also more known to like, hey babe, what you doing? And then take a list of like 50 girls and just like mass spam it. Whereas women, we might have hundreds of DMs from these guys, but we also are aware that those guys are DMing hundreds of other women. So they're acting like the one-way thing, but it's two ways. And also, when it comes to these painting everybody with a picture, first of all, definitely not all women. There's ugly women that exist, and I can't even imagine how difficult in life it must be to not to go through life and not have the same attention maybe your other female friends are getting constantly. I would imagine that would be...
I see people post, since we live in a very open social media world, I see girls post literally their story of like, I'm always the friend that watches the other girls get hit on and I'm just in the corner watching. And they voice these opinions.
Imagine how difficult that would be. And then also... with men, there are these unbelievably good-looking guys who just, all of the women are into them. So to act like there's no men that exist that just have their DMs full to the britches like women, that's also incorrect. So there's just this lack of understanding on both sides. And they tried, another issue that I have with the red pill community is it's like almost always the women at fault.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And one thing that I do really enjoy about the red pill is they're like, okay, even if it's the woman's fault, it's your responsibility to fix it, which I do agree with. If you're an incel, it's not the women's fault for not sleeping with you, or even if it is the women's fault for not sleeping with you, it's your responsibility to fix the issues that are making women not sleep with you. So...
And I agree with that because a lot of times, like, the term incel is interesting. It's a funny term to me because it's like, the term involuntary, it's like they say, oh, I just can't. Girls just don't want me. But going to what you said is, what's the problem we need to fix? Because like I say, I'm a performance psychologist. That's my goal, is to figure out the behaviors to make you perform better, whether it be sport, academics, corporate, whatever. And that's what I do. So when someone comes with that attitude like, oh, I'm just not desired, but the classic 3 things you got to ask yourself. What's your health like? Your fitness? I think it was whatever podcast you mentioned that with the whole, I don't know his name, Brian?
Yeah.
So you said like...
Brian doesn't work out.
Exactly. So if you automatically don't work out, you lost...
No offense, Brian. And I'm trying to be friendly with Brian, and people keep mentioning the fact that I called him a 3, and so it's really putting a strain on our friendship. But Brian, we're homies. Love you, man.
So looks-wise with a man, I don't know how tall he is. I think if you're 6'2", 6'3", you should get I think most men get like a 5. By height.
Brian's not incentivized to work out though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I agree with you when you say with the men, there's certain things they get like women, and the women get certain things that men don't get. So it is a bad argument to say, oh, you got 100 DMs, which is true for a lot of women. Some that are not even considered higher ratings, but it's like at the same time, there are things we can do and things we're positioning to do that, like going back to the incel argument is, are you working out? That's the first checkbox. The other one is, let's say like your income. You don't have to be rich, but if you want to date a girl and your best thing you can do is just get a meal that's no more than, I don't have to be food, but let's say the outing altogether is $20, $30, if that's your limitation, maybe you should be focusing on trying to find a girl. Because I'm not saying you have to be a baller to take someone out, but that means that you have limitations because
honestly,
your bank account...
if you're spending $20, $30 on me for a date, I'm happy. And even if you're not, for me, and I think most women, it's about quality time. So like...
Of course.
Yeah, I agree income is slightly important, but I don't think... and also, you have to be careful about the type of women you're attracting.
No,
so
if
you want to attract a gold digger, then you know what, you have to be digging ground. You know what I mean? You have to have gold under you.
You gotta have I like to hold men, sorry to cut you off, but I like to hold men accountable because I have friends, I'll say these things, and I'm 34, so this red pill thing, I heard of like this talking points maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, but just from my own life, I've went through them personally. So for me, it's more like I analyze, I do content about it sometimes, but I learned this through real world experience. So I have friends, I see them, and go to your point, you can't get mad at that because I had a friend who spent, I don't know how much, but X amount, girl kept curving him, but they'll do things, curve him, do things. We want to say do things dating. And eventually I'm like, just stop talking to her. He's like, nah, man, I gotta, because he's going for the kill. And I'm like, do you realize she knows what she's doing? She's getting what she wants from you, and she knows she can keep doing it, but he didn't want to hear it. And it's like, that's on him. So he can't be like, these women are trash. He got to be like, well, I let this trash woman use me, you know? And that's what a lot of guys I think are doing. They're picking girls because, like you say, it's not every girl. I would say out of my closest 10 friends or circle of friends, there's 10 guys, I would say at least half are married. So it's like there is women out there that are quality. It's just, once again, just like women go for the more maybe baller guy, the more status guy, then type to go for the more glamorous looking girl who maybe on the surface looks good, maybe not. Maybe after things come off she doesn't, but regardless, she has the big butt, all that, but she doesn't bring any value, and then you get mad when the value's not there. It's like, how? You knew she was just that. So you don't blame yourself.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing that I'm finding on Tinder. Like, I'm not on Tinder, I'm banned because too MAGA, but before I was banned.
So be clear, you support Donald J. Trump?
Yeah.
Okay.
But before I was banned, I would find like a lot of these guys would be who, especially if they were unattractive, they would like be posting pictures with like a Lamborghini or on all these like wild vacation, like clearly showing off their wealth. And I'm like, okay, so you know that this is a pictures thing. It's only based off pictures, right? So you're going to be attracting women who are attracted to your money. You're not going to find, so then why are you shocked when you keep finding gold diggers? Like, these are the only types of women that you're even putting bait out there for.
Exactly.
So if you want to find a good woman and it's not working on Tinder, unfortunately, you probably have a nasty face or you're not in good shape, and maybe Tinder isn't good for you. But just because you're not necessarily conventionally attractive, that's not really a deal breaker for most women. Women can actually look past that if you're charismatic enough, and if you're, financially well off is great too, but once again, you don't want to be attracting gold diggers either. You really have to work on your personality and your fitness. Fitness is huge. If you're fat,
I've seen that, and don't kill me, people watching, but I feel women may be a little less forgiving for that than men. Because a man won't necessarily say date a big girl, but he'll date a girl who's not necessarily the fittest. But most women, even Lizzo, let's use her. She wants
like gotta be great.
She wants an in-shape guy, and she's 320 pounds. Like, I know. So it's like, for that to be not say the standard, but it's like going to just to beat down your point is, guys have to work out. Like me, myself, I've been like 7% body fat when I was still an athlete, and I've been bigger. I've been everything, and that plays a factor.
Do you really think Lizzo is dating someone on the Minnesota Vikings?
No, she wants to though. She wants to. That's my point though. They want it, so they're not as forgiving for aesthetic, body-wise at least. That's what I'm saying. Men are a little, because let's be real.
Do you think there's any men out there, because men are weird as fuck with their sexual interest. Do you think there's any men out there who's like, oh my God, Lizzo, oh, that's my type? Oof.
Very, very few, 0.1%. Okay. But the ones who would do it is because of desperation, not because of desire. Really?
You don't think there's no, I don't believe you, because I saw this one. I love TLC, so don't even get me started.
Don't go chasing waterfalls, TLC?
No, like the retarded channel where they find really sad,
I thought you meant TLC. Don't go. Yeah. So, okay, the Learning Channel, yeah. That's what it's called, right? The Learning
Channel, where you learn about how crazy people are.
Like Honey Boo Boo.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is this one couple that I saw on this channel once where this guy,
Life.
I don't know if it was 600 Pound Life or Crazy Love or one of those weird channels, but this guy loved to feed his girlfriend. And like she was so, and like he was super into it. And there was like other men
fetish though. Fetish is different. Fetish is a little bit different. There's fetish and there's preference.
Men have like a fat fetish.
I feel there's a decent percent of that. But fetish is more like, it has a different connotation.
You know what? I disagree with you. Here's why. Because, and I don't think I would have if I hadn't had this personal experience. I have a friend who's bigger than me, and she's she's not Lizzo, but you know, she has some of the similar.
Over 200 pounds.
Possibly.
Okay, we are getting semantics.
She's diametrically opposed to me, and I dated this guy, really cute, professional athlete. Really liked him. We didn't really mesh, just on a personal level. Like we didn't have like anything in common, so we stopped dating. He started dating her, and like really liked her, and like other women who looked like her. And like that was his type, and I thought,
Type.
yeah, I mean.
But like I said, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I never said that. I don't live in the absolutes, but probability-wise, if I picked 100 men, I would say less than 10 would be him.
Okay, have you noticed that a lot of the girls on Fresh and Fit are chunky?
Can I be real? Most people are overweight.
Oh, that's so true.
If I actually, because I used to teach at a college, and I would teach this course on health and wellness, and I know the numbers. The leading groups is first and foremost is Black women, then it's Hispanic women, then it's Black men, then it's Hispanic men, then it's white women, white men, and then way at the bottom is Asians. And all those are right next to each other. They're not like gaps.
Would you agree?
All of them are within like 2% of each other. It's like 60%, 58%, 57%. So they're all there. And then Asians are way down there, like 20% of their population is overweight.
I wonder what Jews are. Like if they.
Well, I guess that's lumped in probably. Nah, they probably did it by white. Yeah, they did it. Well, they did more.